Like Will said, my name is Yahaira, and I'm a youth organizer in Kansas City, and we do work on both sides of the state line, which actually brings an interesting, I would say, factor into our organizing, just because sometimes we think that states and how, for example, they work is on a basis that they only affect the people that live within those states. And sometimes, for example, Arizona may seem like it's a far-off place, like it doesn't have anything to do with some people, but in Kansas City, those kinds of issues are really highlighted just because we do so much across state line work. I think the important connection with our city and the work that we do is that Chris Kobach, who is one of the authors of SB 1070, actually teaches at one of the universities in Kansas City, the University of Missouri. And he is also running for state Secretary of State in Kansas. So we are very active in fighting against the things that he teaches, the things that he pushes for, but we also fight every year to make sure we have in-state tuition in Kansas, that it doesn't get taken away, and we fight to try to get undocumented students to have the ability to go to higher education institutions in Missouri, because as law currently stands, undocumented youth cannot attend public universities in the state of Missouri. And all of that obviously is connected. I think it's really important that we don't forget that what one state does or what one person does in one state affects the whole of the country. I think these pictures that Will has found and is showing really demonstrate a difference in thought, in action, and in organizing that young people have come to, right? We never really saw this kind of just being out front and vocal and bold and really honestly fearless, and just, you know, it's utter strength. And it's an honor to work with him and to be part of the youth movement. But there's more things that we worry about than just the DREAM Act. Yes, that's our main focus, but everything else that has to do with the immigration system affects us. Things like driver's license checkpoints, which we have a lot in Kansas and Missouri, and I know that happen in other states, where supposedly they are set up to make sure people have licenses, are registered, and have insurance, those kinds of things. And really, how do they affect our undocumented community? Because I've seen these checkpoints set up under bridges or near bridges, and you have big buses, and you have immigration agents that are waiting for people there. And people think, oh, I thought that was a good thing. I didn't know that was a problem. And really, the people that they're catching in these registration and driver's license checkpoints are people who are just coming or going to work or trying to take their children to school or trying to get to school themselves. And that's something that we hadn't, or at least I hadn't seen before, and that I've noticed that is rising. Additionally, I really want to highlight and connect Arizona back in with what we're seeing as far as criminalizing our undocumented people. I don't know if perhaps everybody is familiar with the Streamline Project, or Operation Streamline as it's known, and that's something that happens in border states, and something that I was able to actually see when I went to Tucson, which is a place where basically they bring in anywhere between 60 to 80 undocumented people that have been caught crossing the border. They bring them in chains to the courtroom. There is a room, the courtroom is full of lawyers, that's all. Very few family members, very few community members. It's just 30 to 40 lawyers, 60 to 80 people being processed 10 at a time, chained, hand to feet. So every time that they move, every time that they try to adjust the position that they're sitting in, all you hear is the sound of the chains. That's all that sticks with you. And people don't know that that's happening. We are criminalizing people that are crossing the border on their first time, sending them back, humiliating them, taking away their humanity by putting them through this situation. And the logic is that if you criminalize people and send them back, that they won't return. And obviously that's, not the case. That's not the solution to our problem. And additionally, in border states, you're seeing what is called a funnel effect. With things like the border wall going up, We are seeing places that are hospitable that are obviously more secured, and so the only places for people to cross are the most inhospitable areas of our border, and that increases deaths in the desert. And the logic behind that as well is that you will decrease immigration by basically people dying in the journey. And that's not a humane way to address our immigration issue. That is not an actual solution. Because it just addresses one concern and it addresses it inhumanely. And as an undocumented youth movement, we have taken the stance that we need to work for an incremental change. While we do work for comprehensive immigration reform, we have in the last 9 years of working for the DREAM Act become strategists, political analysts, researchers, media gurus, and it's a position that is very well thought out. Perhaps not everybody agrees, but we have to start somewhere. And these young people are smart, are driven, we're passionate, and we're going to continue to work until we get the change that we want, and that doesn't stop at the DREAM Act. And so I think that's just a very important point to highlight, and I will give it back.
Okay, great.